So you're interested in sustainable agriculture in India, specifically all this buzz about hydroponics. Well, you're in the right place. We're diving deep into hydroponic fodder and how it could totally change the game for India's livestock industry. We've got some really fascinating sources lined up for you today. There's research from Tamil Nadu Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, TANU-VS for short.
Catchy. But,
Definitely. We've also got insights from an Agritech startup that's doing some really cool stuff on the ground and even some analysis of the environmental impact. But first, let's talk about why this even matters.
It's all about the sheer scale of the challenge. India has a massive livestock population, and feeding all those animals is a constant struggle. There's a chronic shortage of fodder.
And it's not exactly a new problem, is it?
Not at all.
TANU-VS research actually points out that only 4% of India's land that could be used for farming is dedicated to growing fodder.
Right.
And get this, that percentage hasn't changed in 40 years.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That really struck me when I saw it. Kind of alarming.
It is alarming because it affects everything. Farmers' incomes are directly tied to how much fodder is available. Then there's animal health, the quality of milk and meat.
Yeah.
It creates this ripple effect across the entire system.
Okay, so we've got this huge problem. It's not going away, and that's where hydroponic fodder comes in. It's like, hold on. What if we could grow animal feed anywhere, using barely any water, and without needing acres of land?
Exactly. It's incredibly resource efficient, which is essential in India, where land is becoming more and more precious.
Instead of being limited by traditional farming, we're talking about growing high-quality feed in a controlled environment using 98% less water.
You know, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. Okay, less water, less land. That's amazing. But let's get down to the how. How does this actually work?
It's pretty cool, actually, how something so revolutionary can be so straightforward.
Right.
TANU-VS actually has this whole detailed manual.
Yeah.
It's like they want everyone to be able to try this.
Mm-hmm.
And they start with seed selection.
Okay.
And maize is common, but it's not a one-size-fits-all.
That's right. The TANU-VS research talks about growing ragi, bajra, even cowpea, stuff you might not think of for hydroponics.
Right.
Really shows how versatile it can be.
Exactly. Different crops for different regions, different animal needs. I mean, it really opens things up.
So you've got your seeds, you soak them, let them germinate, and then in just 8 days, those seeds turn into this lush green mat of fodder.
Ready to harvest.
Ready to harvest, like we sped up nature. It's incredible.
It's pretty remarkable. But here's the thing. It's not just about the speed.
Right.
What's really exciting is that hydroponically grown fodder can be even more nutritious.
Really?
TANU-VS actually found there was significantly higher protein in it compared to conventionally grown fodder.
More protein.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking healthier animals, maybe even higher milk production.
Potentially, yeah.
Talk about a win-win for farmers.
Exactly. And you got to think about the economic benefits for the farmer too, right?
you-
Higher protein content means they can cut back on expensive supplemental feed. Save them money in the long run.
So we're tackling food scarcity, boosting farmer income, and doing it all in a way that saves land and water. This is starting to sound less like science fiction and more like this is the future.
I think so.
But how do we take this from the lab to the field?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
TANU-VS didn't stop at the lab. They did feeding trials to see how this actually affected the animals.
Feeding trials now we're talking? What did they find?
The results are pretty impressive. Cows fed on the hydroponic fodder, they saw a real jump in milk yield.
Okay, but it's not just about more milk, right? Quality matters too.
Oh, absolutely. And TANU-VS, they found the milk from the cows on the hydroponic diet. It actually had higher fat content
Okay.
and higher SNF.
Hold on, I gotta ask. For those of us who aren't dairy farmers, what is SNF?
Good point. It stands for solids, not fat. So basically everything good in milk that's not water or fat. Proteins, vitamins, minerals, all that. Higher SNF means richer, more nutritious milk, the kind that gets a better price,
Right.
which is good news for farmers.
So this isn't just some theory. This is actually impacting farmers' lives.
Yeah.
They're getting more milk, they're getting better milk, which hopefully means more income.
Exactly, and this is where it gets even more interesting, I think. So we've talked about the science, the research,
Yeah.
but there are actual companies taking this and running with it.
Right.
Have you heard of Shunya?
Shunya, yeah. They're the Agritech startup, right? Doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, their fodder-as-a-service model. Pretty cool idea. Imagine this, you order your daily fodder needs, like you order groceries.
Through an app?
Through an app, exactly.
Wow.
And they're not just delivering fodder, they're creating a whole system around it.
Right, they're really building an ecosystem.
Totally. They're combining this hyper-local production with technology.
Yeah.
Like they use the Internet of Things, IoT, to monitor and control the growing conditions in their units. It's precision agriculture on a whole other level.
Yeah, next level stuff.
And by keeping things hyper-local, they cut down on transport costs, they reduce their environmental impact, and they get to support local communities directly.
Makes a lot of sense.
And there's this social impact aspect, too, I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Their goal is to actually build a digital community for these farmers.
Really?
So imagine a platform where farmers can connect, share knowledge, maybe even buy and sell other products.
It's like a social network, but for farmers.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. I love it. But we can't talk about sustainable agriculture without talking about the environment, right?
Of course not. And that's one of the most exciting things about hydroponics.
Okay.
You automatically need less land, way less water.
Right.
And when you're producing things locally, you reduce those emissions from transportation.
It's a smaller carbon footprint all around. I read that a single hydroponic unit can produce the same amount of fodder as 80 acres of land.
80 acres. It's incredible.
It's mind-blowing. It makes you think differently about how we feed the world.
It does. But one important thing to remember.
Yeah.
It needs electricity.
Ah, right.
So if we want this to be truly sustainable, we need to be thinking about clean energy sources.
That's true. If we're relying on fossil fuels to power these hydroponic farms, are we really solving the problem?
Exactly. But imagine if these farms were powered by renewable energy, solar, wind,
Oh, wow.
maybe even part of microgrids. Now, that would be a truly sustainable system.
Yeah, and it's not even that crazy, right? I mean, thinking back to Shunya's model, with these microservice markets, they could actually be powered by their own little microgrids using renewable energy.
It's a really compelling vision. Locally sourced, sustainable fodder, empowering farmers, all while minimizing environmental impact.
Yeah.
And you know what? From what we've seen today, I think it's definitely achievable.
It really shows that innovation can come from anywhere, and that sometimes the best solutions are right in front of us.
Literally, in this case.
Literally. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.
We covered a lot.
We did, but it leaves us with a question. Could this be a model not just for India, but for sustainable agriculture globally? We've laid out the facts. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think?